MCU may not be mentioned particularly often when it comes to recognition from the Academy Awards. In fact, outside of a handful of nominations over the years, the franchise has largely been ignored. But still, it has become one of the most popular franchises in the history of Hollywood. The characters, the stories, the action, the CGI, the surprises, and countless other aspects have helped earn this reputation, but a big part of it is the fans themselves. They know what they want, and a lot of the time, they get it. It's not uncommon for this to happen, for Kevin Feige and co. to listen to the millions of fans on the internet and consciously bring them exactly what they want. And while most of the time this pays off, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, John Krasinski and the like, there have been times when it has backfired. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 times the MCU gave fans exactly what they wanted, and they hated it. Number 10. Captain Marvel. If you were to ask the MCU fandom at large who their least favourite superhero in the franchise is, chances are you would get more votes for Carol Danvers than anyone else. For a number of different reasons, Captain Marvel isn't the most popular, with her solo movie being one of the worst received MCU movies so far. However, rewind back to the run-up to Infinity War, everyone was desperate for the character to make her big screen debut. The Infinity War post-credit scene saw Nick Fury send a page with the Captain Marvel logo popping up right after, and the internet lost its collective mind. It seemed that this was an automatic win. But since her debut in 2019, she has struggled to connect to fans. Part of this comes from the often outspoken Brie Larson rubbing a small pocket of the fandom the wrong way, but more importantly, it seems to be Carol Danvers' lack of journey or change. She didn't really do anything to earn her powers, and her arrogance when she met the Avengers didn't exactly help proceedings either. Thor may have liked her, but few others have. Number 9. ZEMO'S mask. Daniel Brühl's Sokovian antagonist posed the kind of threat the MCU had never seen before. But there was one glaring omission that fans struggled to overlook. You can change his origin, you can make his plan ludicrously convoluted, but how can you bring him to life without his iconic purple mask? Fortunately, 5 years after his appearance in Captain America: Civil War, Zemo returned to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it was confirmed early on that he would bring with him his trademark headgear. He was seen wearing the mask in the trailer, and it felt right. However, that was about it. Zemo wore the mask just once throughout the series, with no explanation for why he wore it, what it meant, or any kind of significance. It was pointless and only served to annoy fans even more than before. Number 8. Eternals. After the 23 movies of the Infinity Saga, some fans felt that the MCU relied too heavily on a certain formula in their movies. This was where Eternals promised to be different. Chloe Zhao was brought in to direct the cosmic giants in what should have been a winning combination. However, you then found those same people claiming that the MCU was too formulaic, complaining that Eternals was so different that it didn't feel like a Marvel movie anymore. They had been asking for different for so long, yet when different came along, it was ridiculed and rejected. People were excited to see an ensemble cast, an Academy Award-winning director, and a relatively obscure cast of characters with a loyal, if small, fan base. But since its release, Eternals has been a consensus pick as one of the least popular MCU movies in recent memory. Number 7. The Defenders. Are the Netflix TV shows technically MCU canon? Are they not? Marvel Studios have largely ignored them in the past, but with Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio reprising their roles in Spider-Man: No Way Home and Hawkeye respectively, before coming back together in Daredevil: Born Again on Disney+, it feels like they are part of the family. Daredevil is critically acclaimed, and there is a reason why fans are so excited for his return. Jessica Jones was also a fantastic series, and even though Luke Cage and Iron Fist were underwhelming, The Defenders was very highly anticipated. The movies had the Avengers, Netflix had the Defenders, and the response from audiences couldn't have been further from each other. People loved the Avengers, but the Defenders, not so much. There was one outstanding scene. Of course, it was a fight scene in a hallway, but other than this, the series was poor. It was as close to boring as Marvel has come in a very long time, and Sigourney Weaver as the villain was utterly wasted. Billing her as the main antagonist before swapping her out for the underwhelming Elektra was not a smart move, and it's no real surprise the entire franchise was put to bed before the heroes ever came together again. Number 6. Multiverse cameos. After Spider-Man No Way Home proved that Kevin Feige's reach extends to being able to do just about anything he wants in the MCU, expectations went through the roof for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If they can get Maguire and Garfield, who else could they get? Rumours before the movie's release went wild, and with the big reveals of Professor X, Captain Carter and the Illuminati already spoiled, it was fair to assume that Sam Raimi had more surprises up his sleeve. Wolverine? Deadpool? Chris Evans as the Human Torch? The possibilities were apparently endless. Though John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic was an incredible moment, the entire Illuminati scene fell completely flat. It was designed to show how powerful Wanda was, but what fans saw was an utter waste of what could have been several phenomenal additions to the movie and the MCU in general. Hayley Atwell's long-awaited return, and as a live-action Captain Carter no less, was wasted. Black Bolt was wasted, leaving questions over whether the Inhumans even have a feature in the MCU at all. Maria Rambeau's turn as Captain Marvel was a waste, as was the debut of Professor X in the franchise. Fans were sent into euphoria before being viciously brought back down to earth in the span of just a few minutes. Number 5. Smart Hulk. Though Avengers Infinity War was without a doubt a masterpiece, and is arguably the crowning glory of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was not without a flaw or two. One of these was that after the Hulk was defeated by Thanos, he failed to show his face again. In the 5-year gap that was known as the Blip, Bruce Banner found a way to bring the brains and the brawn together, creating Smart Hulk. This would be the version of the Jade Giant the MCU would be using for the foreseeable future, and fans were excited. There was a huge amount of buzz around the character when concept art for Endgame showing Banner's change leaked, and at the very least, it would be something different. Now, however, fans aren't so happy. The raging brute that was the Hulk was a powerhouse for the Avengers, but now he is a far cry from it. He may have put the brains and brawn together, but really Hulk is yet to properly show his powerful side since being beaten by Thanos. It's like the Hulk has been hamstrung somewhat and is a shadow of his former self. Number 4. Loki's gender and sexuality. Loki is one of the most popular characters in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, from his wonderfully evil ways in Thor and the Avengers to his show-stealing performance in The Dark World and his sacrifice in Infinity War. There's no wonder why he was given his own Disney Plus series. This has arguably been the strongest series so far and stood out for many reasons. The God of Mischief had his character explored more than ever before with different variants, and fans wondered if his gender and sexuality would be addressed. Throughout the series, it was confirmed that Loki was a gender-fluid being and that he was bisexual. Both of these aspects of his character were things that fans had been desperate to see for some time, and though they rejoiced, there were many that still took issue. This was simply because the series didn't explore these things enough. A blink and you'll miss it field filled in on a TVA form and a passing remark about a few male romantic interests were all fans got. In an entire series based around the God of Mischief, MCU fans weren't happy that this was all these huge revelations were relegated to, instead of actually becoming a part of his character. Number 3. The A-Force. For all the plaudits the MCU has received over the years, there have been a few glaring areas in which it could improve. Most importantly has been representation and diversity. It wasn't until 2019 that Marvel Studios released a movie with a female lead, 11 years after Iron Man. Over the last few years, the MCU has made a conscious effort to do better, though some of this has been a lot more misguided. While it has been refreshing to see Scarlett Johansson leading her own movie, Gemma Chan taking point on Eternals, and more female directors than ever before, the A-Force missed the mark entirely. During the Battle of Earth in Avengers Endgame, Carol Danvers took the Infinity Stones from Peter Parker with the aim of getting them to Scott Lang's van. Spider-Man asked how she was going to do such a gargantuan task, but he was reassured that she had help. This was the cue for every named female on the battlefield to inexplicably appear at the right time and lend their hand to Carol, who needed absolutely no help whatsoever. This was just pure pandering. Every MCU fan would love to see a coming together of the women of the franchise as a real A-force, but many found this to be forced and insulting. Number 2, the story behind Nick Fury's eye. Is there? Has there ever been, or will there ever be, a character in the MCU as cool as Nick Fury? The answer to all 3 of these is no. Samuel L. Jackson simply emits a constant pulse of cool that just cannot be matched, with the air of mystery surrounding the character just adding to it even further. Ever since he stepped from out of the shadows to address Tony Stark, Director Fury has sported a black eye patch. There was never any explanation, though in The Winter Soldier he claimed he lost his eye when he last trusted someone. Clearly there was a backstory here and fans were desperate to know it. Who did he trust? How exactly did he lose his eye? How was he betrayed? In the world of superheroes, technology and espionage that Fury lived, it could have been anything. The revelation in Captain Marvel, however, was painfully underwhelming. He trusted Goose the Flurkin with the Tesseract, but was scratched across the eye by the cat-looking alien. There was no betrayal, it was literally a cat scratch. Some stories are clearly better left untold. Number 1. More Taika Waititi. Back in 2017, Taika Waititi was something of a saviour for Chris Hemsworth, the God of Thunder, and the Thor franchise in general. After an average, if inoffensive debut and arguably the worst movie in the entire MCU as a sequel, Thor was reinvigorated by the director with Ragnarok. Unsurprisingly, the character whose solo franchise seemed to be destined to limp over the finish line was given a new lease of life, and in 2019 was announced to be the first film series without Avengers in the title to get 4 movies. Fans rejoiced. More of the same from Taika Waititi was a tantalising prospect that every fan wanted, but what Waititi actually produced has been one of the biggest shocks in MCU, and not for the right reasons. Almost universally, Thor: Love and Thunder was a huge disappointment, devoid of the kind of humour and charm that made Ragnarok so special. Waititi's MCU debut earned Rotten Tomatoes scores of 93% and 87% from critics and audiences respectively, while Love and Thunder fell way short with 67% and 78%. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed any, then do let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.